stopping, homie, regardless. And I ain't stopping, no, I ain't stopping. I'm just getting started. Let's go. My skin is pale, but I'm a black sheep. Riding through the city, Satan in the backseat. Hey yo, that's me, I run it like a track meet. A rap fiend, I set the bar high like an athlete. Step in the booth and Zach gon' drop that 808. Cause the vibe is dope and the beat is cracking, now it's getting laced. I'm sharp as a razor blade, I can blow your mind like JFK. I do what I want, you ain't gonna box me in like...
What's good, everybody? I'm Danny D-Lo, and this is Danny D-Lo Biker TV. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to chase a short in your wiring in your motorcycle. Now, a lot of you been hitting me up wondering, damn, where'd D-Lo go, man? It's been a week. You ain't posted no videos. You ain't been doing nothing. Man, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. From like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning till sometimes 7, 8 o'clock at night, I was in my shop for a whole week now, for about 6 days, chasing a short on my bike. My tail light, every time I'd hit my brake switch, you know, whether it was top or bottom, I'd hit my front or my rear. As soon as I'd hit the brake, I'd pop a fuse. And I'm like, man, what the hell's going on? And when the fuse would pop, it would take my digital gauges out too. And I'm like, damn, man, what's going on, man? So I chased this short for 6 days. For 2 days, me and my mentor, my brother, who has taught me everything I know, who has forgotten more than I know, me and him both sat in my shop chasing this short, trying to find it. And we could not find this wire, man. Like, I mean, I had my whole bike apart, y'all. I had the tank off, the bags off, the whole fairing. I mean, side covers. I mean, the whole bike was apart. All I had to do was pull the motor at that point. Like, I chased these wires everywhere, man. And I just could not find it. I'm like, man. And then when we finally thought we were getting somewhere, we're getting close, this MF decided to stop doing it. And I'm like, damn, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, what am I gonna do, man? So how I started it was I thought maybe it was in my tail light. So I unhooked my tail light. I unplugged that. It still popped the fuse. Then I unplugged from the tail light all the way underneath the seat, and it still popped. So then I unplugged from the rear brake switch all the way to the plug, and it still popped. And then I took the wiring out, the power wires out of the front fairing harness, you know, and my handlebars, from the front brake switch through my handlebars and then down into the plug that's like under the fairing. So I did that, and it still did it. And I'm like, all right, this don't make any sense. Like, what's going on, man? And man, it took me forever. It was a complete and utter mess. It really was, man. I had wiring everywhere. You know, I cut some wires to see if maybe this was the problem, that was the problem. And then finally, it was like about 2 in the morning, and I thought I had it fixed. It was working again, and the brake light was working, everything was good. And the brake light that I have, it's all LED, and it flashes when you first hit it. I think it flashes like 3 or 4 bursts, and then it, you know, then it turns on. So I'm like, man, you know, I just could not grasp like where it could have been, what was going on, why it was happening. So it was about 2 in the morning, and I thought the bike was like fixed finally, like it fixed itself. You know, it turned into a ghost. And those of you that have been riding a long time and working on your bikes and wrenching, you already know what I mean by ghost. Harleys are notoriously known for chasing a ghost, man. Like, you'll have a wiring problem, you'll have a short, and you'll pop a fuse, and you'll be trying to find it, and all of a sudden it goes away and it never comes back. Or like 2 years later, it decides to come back. Like, it's weird how Harleys are sometimes. And there's a short somewhere, but you just can't find it. So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I get my bike all back together, and I'm bound and determined I'm about to take a ride, right? And I get it all back together. I put the front fairing on, I start the bike, I back it out of my garage, and boom, my gauges go out. The fuse popped again. And I said, man, come on, man, what the hell's going on here? So I pulled it back in. I took the fairing off because I'm like, I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what, man? I'm like, the last thing I've been putting on is the front fairing. I put the bags on, I put the tank on, I put the side covers on, I plug everything back in, like everything is good and it still works fine. But when I put the front fairing on, something up there is the problem. So I took the fairing off, I'm looking at wires, and I mean, I got every light I own. LED lights, bright construction lights. I've got everything all turned on. And I'm picking through wires and I'm trying to find, a wire that's chafed or burned out, or, maybe it's hitting a piece of metal or something, anything, right? I'm just looking and looking and looking. So I put the fairing back on. I start screwing it down. I cut a couple of wires and taped them, not taped them, but heat shrunk them. And I thought, okay, maybe that was the problem, right? So I put the fairing back on. And it does it again. And I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. So finally, I come up with the idea. I'm like, you know what? Let's take all the bolts out of the fairing. But I'm going to put the fairing on. And I'm going to push it and see what happens. So I pushed the top of the fairing. And the brake light came on and flashed. And it was all good. I'm like, okay, it's not there. I push in the bottom. And boom, it pops the fuse right away. And I said, okay. So then I thought in my head, I said, you know what? I'm going about this all wrong. I'm definitely going about this all wrong. I'm like, all right, I think I know what to do here. So what I did was I turned all the lights off in my shop. It was completely pitch black. All I did was turn on my red LEDs on the bike so I could, maneuver around the garage and see what I was doing real quick. And what I did was I put the fairing on, but I left the top spread open a little bit so I could look down in there, so I could look down and see what was going on. And I pushed the bottom of the fairing in, and boom, I see a little blue spark. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, I finally effing found this son of a bitch. So I found the problem. What it was is, so there's a speaker, there's a bracket, and it's a fairing bracket that goes from your fairing bracket over to your speaker. It's a little metal piece. It's like a little arm. And on that little bracket, there's two different little plugs there that mount on there. And it's a little circle that, you press down and you slide it, and that's how it stays on. Well, one of those plugs, because I put oversized speakers in my fairing, which that will be the next video that's going to come out, by the way, my sound system that I installed. I'm going to give you all some tips and tell you about what I did to my bike as far as the sound system, how much it costed, and kind of give you guys a quick option of a really good sound system that's not going to cost you, it's not going to break the bank, you know what I'm saying? And it's good quality. So anyways, I find out that because I have a big speaker in there, the plug, one of the wires, was arcing on the speaker basket, the metal basket. It was arcing on that. And that's what was causing all of my problems. I couldn't believe it. I said, man, you gotta be kidding me, man. I took my whole motorcycle apart. The whole bike, took it all apart. I chased wires everywhere. I opened up every piece of wiring on this bike. I thought I was going to have to rewire the whole motorcycle, to be honest with you. And it turned out it was something so stupid like that. So my suggestion is, like when you run into a similar problem like that, all right, when you do that, what I would suggest is whatever is causing it. So in my case, it was the tail light. Every time I hit power to the tail light, that was just enough power to cause the fuse to pop because of the arcing that was going on. So what you want to do is, again, let's say it's your tail light. unplug your taillight so that way there you know, okay, it's not the taillight itself. Now you unplug from underneath the seat to the rear. Unplug all that wiring so you have no power going to any of that wiring. If it still does it, you just keep going forward. You know, you just keep chasing it. Like, you know, when we say that we're chasing a short on our bike, we really mean it. You're literally chasing it. You're running down the wires, trying to figure out which one's shaped, which one's shorting out, which one's grounding out. Is it arcing on something? Like, is it bare wire somewhere? Like, what's going on? So that's pretty much how you do it. And it's not easy. It's time consuming, but I enjoy doing wiring, and I'm a firm believer. I refuse to take my bike to Harley. I'm not gonna allow a so-called technician to work on my bike, because half the time they don't know what the hell they're doing either. And even if they do, now you're paying $25. If I'd have taken my bike to the Harley dealer, first of all, they'd still be looking for the short, and secondly, I'd be paying $4 or $5 grand at the end of the month when they finally think they fixed my bike, if they did. It can be time consuming, and you're getting charged by the hour, man. It's 125, 150 or more an hour. So if they spend all day on that bike and they didn't fix it, you just spent a hell of an amount of money. You just spent $800, $900, about $1,000 you just spent, and your bike's still not fixed. Now there's tomorrow. Now there's the next day, and the next day, and the next day. It can get crazy expensive, man. So I refuse to take my bike to a Harley dealer. If I'm on the road, obviously I'll hit a dealer, because there's some things you just can't do on the road. You know, like, you know, changing a tire. I mean, you could, but I'm too old to get the spoons out and start, you know, trying to put a tire on my bike. Like, nah, I'm good. I'll pay a couple extra bucks and let them do that. You know, tighten up my belt, something like that, because I don't have a jack on hand, whatever. You know, but as a norm for me personally, I won't take I don't like anybody working on my bike but me. Case in point, why I don't do that, a good brother of mine just had his bike serviced and had a starter put in his bike by a little local shop, right? I should blast this shop, I really should, but I won't. But it is in Hebron, Illinois. So a good brother of mine, he turns around, he takes his bike to this shop, and they fix the starter. They do a service on it. You know, they check all the fluids and the belt or the chain in his case and all this stuff, right? So they look over the whole bike, do a safety check and all this stuff. Me and him are riding down the street, and his saddlebag fell off. Again, his saddlebag fell the F off and slid down the highway and completely just ruined this saddlebag, the paint on it and everything, right? Grinded the plastic and everything. Now, his bike's a 98. This is not a common problem for a 98. It's a common problem for a newer bike, like around, I believe it was like 09 and up or something like that. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember for a few years, the bikes were very well known for the bags falling off, if not still. But back in 98, this never happened. And at least I've never heard of it anyway, not very often. So his bag fell off. So obviously this knucklehead didn't put the bag on secure enough, and now my guy's got to spend a whole lot of money for new bags and paint and bodywork and all this stuff, right? So then a couple of days later, now his primary is leaking. They used the old gasket and put it back on. So now his primary is leaking. And they didn't tighten the bolts down good enough either. So now here he is leaking fluid. Now he's got to redo all of that. And it's like, I would never, first of all, if somebody did that to my bike, I wouldn't be doing these videos no more. I'd probably be in jail for a while, because ain't no way I'm not going to crack this dude's head open to the white meat for doing my bike ugly like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no way am I going to be okay with getting screwed around. So I always do all my own work, as you can clearly see in my videos. So that's how you chase a short, though. I hope I'm as informative as I can. I didn't think about like actually recording for you guys to watch me go through all of these steps. I was too busy chasing the dream, kind of, so to speak, chasing the ghost. So I didn't get a chance to record all of it, but I did get a chance to record some of it, as you clearly seen throughout this video. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Much love and respect to y'all. And as always, keep it real and keep it 100. Peace.